Hi, today I want to talk about the big F word, and that is fat. So, fat gets a really bad rep, I find, especially in today's social media and everything that we hear and read. Everyone's focused on losing fat, lose more fat. Well, fat is not bad for you. Your body needs fat to function properly. Without enough fat, you go into hormonal disbalance as much as if you had too much fat. Not in the same way, completely different symptoms, but both sides of the spectrum or both ends of the spectrum are very dire and very bad for your health. And so before we get into how to get to our ideal fat percentage, we want to talk about and just demystify a little bit the different types of fat, because we use the same term to mean a lot of different things. So first and foremost, there's two types of fat. There's dietary fat, and then there's your physical fat. Dietary fat is the fat that you eat. So it's olive oil, canola oil, it's the grease that comes from your bacon, it's lard, it's Cisco, it's butter. All of those are dietary fat, and they come in all kinds of ranges that give you omega-6s, omega-3s, trans fats, saturated, unsaturated fats. Ultimately, you want to make sure that you're ingesting fats that come primarily from a whole food. And I know there's a lot of questions out there about seed oils. Honestly, seed oils aren't bad for you as long as you're not overheating it. That's where they become really unstable. And there's also a lot of bad rep about like animal fat. Again, the animal fats, if it's being raised in a pasture and it's grass-fed, for the most part, those fats are not bad for you. Side note, it's actually really funny because growing up in the Western world, I was always told bacon is really bad for you. But my mother, who's Taiwanese, has always told me that a little bit of pork fat is good for your heart. So that just goes to show how much disconnect there is in terms of what we know about fat and what its impact to our bodies. Fats are not bad for you. It's all about the quality of the fats. So you want to make sure that there are no fillers. You want to make sure that it comes from ideally an organic source. And if it's animal-based fat, ideally it's pasture-raised or grass-fed fat. Now, that being said, dietary fat does not translate one-to-one into physical fat. So if you eat 1 pound of dietary fat, which is like a lot of calories, that doesn't mean you're gonna automatically gain 1 pound of fat on your body. That's not how it works. Whatever you ingest still gets metabolized in your system, in your bloodstream. Your body will sort it through and figure out how to metabolize it correctly. Fat does not equal fat in your body. Now, as we shift over to physical fat, we need to understand that there's two types of fat. One, there's subcutaneous fat, and there's also visceral fat. Visceral fat is the bad fat. So this is the type of fat that you really, really want to minimize, and this is the stuff that's really dangerous for your health. So this is the fat that wraps around your organs. So this is the stuff that causes a lot of inflammation, which leads to all kinds of things, but primarily metabolic diseases. Visceral fat is extremely dangerous and is extremely bad for your health in the long run. So visceral fat, try to avoid as much as possible. The second type is subcutaneous. Subcutaneous is not particularly harmful. It's the fat that's right under your skin. So stuff that usually you can pinch. So it's like your underarm fat, your belly fat. It's the fat that's pinchable. This fat is right under the skin and it's readily to be used by your body as energy. So this is very much energy stores in your body. Now, subcutaneous fat, unfortunately, it's the fat that we see, and that's usually the fat that gets judged, and that's usually the fat that we want to get rid of. Luckily, subcutaneous fat is a lot easier to get rid of than visceral fat. Now, I do need to point out that there is some correlation between the two fats in that if you have a ridiculous amount of subcutaneous fat, then by default, you kind of have a lot more visceral fat. However, if you have some subcutaneous fat, it does not mean necessarily that you have a lot of visceral fat. So in order to know exactly what the percentage of visceral versus subcutaneous you have, it might be worthwhile to get a DEXA scan. That's DEXA, and that's a full body scan. It'll give you your bone density, your lean mass, your fat mass. It'll give you a breakdown of your visceral and subcutaneous fats. so that you can really understand your health physiologically. That you need to get a prescription, and it costs in Canada, it's like $100 give or take to get the scan done. All right, so we talked about the different types of fat. Now we want to just target a little bit, well, how do you get rid of it? And these are just a couple of tips and tricks, but ultimately you want to stay consistent across any of these in order to see results. Number one is eat whole foods as much as possible. I know there's a lot of different programs of like low carb, keto, vegan diets, counting calories, whatever that might be. I don't really sign up for any of those because it's so different for every person. Every single client that I see, for some of them, a vegan diet works. For others, they need to go low carb. And for others, they go to keto or we do intermittent fasting. It's so different for everyone, mostly because their lifestyles are very different, but also because they're built physiologically different. But ultimately, you want to try to find some kind of diet. And when I say diet, I don't mean like a program. I just mean a way of eating that is based primarily with whole foods and that you're mostly cooking on your own and not buying out. Number two is you want to try to work out 3 to 5 times a week. Now, 3 to 5 times is not the same workout every single day. Of the 3 to 5, you want to try to do 2 to 3 strength training, like actual strength training. And the balance of that can be HIIT, it could be low intensity cardio, it could be high intensity cardio, it could be cycling, it could be doing yoga, it could be whatever else. But that's really the breakdown between the two. Now, you want to be able to maintain both of these habits forever is the tip that you really want to go forward with. Because you can do a program for like 4 to 6 weeks and you'll see amazing results in 4 to 6 weeks. But if you don't keep doing the program and make it part of your lifestyle and your eating habits and your workout habits, well, you're just going to reverse to the old habits that got you in the bad place, the bad place in the first place. So regardless of what kind of diet or food program you're following, and regardless of what kind of workout program you're following, the key is to make sure that it's something that you can do in the long run and make it part of your lifestyle. If this video was helpful for some of you guys to get a better understanding of fat and the impacts that it has on your body, as well as what you can do to minimize that, leave a comment below, tell me your journey, and also check back every single Friday for a new video.